Across the realm of Sega, codesmiths meticulously toil away at creating fine Saturn software for the modern age. As time progresses, so do their skills and dedication to the art of homebrew. At the dawn of each year, their talents collide in a fearsome showdown. Marking the 30th anniversary of the 5th Gen's Dark Horse, SegaXtreme pits these developers against one another, striving for the top prize across 3 categories: original games, hacks, patches, translations, and tools, utilities. Though these artisans may find strength in cooperation, just one piece of software will reign supreme in each of the 3 categories. With which new games will we grace our ODEs and blank discs? What new experiences behold our buttery smooth D-pads? Who will come out on top in this year's SegaXtreme Saturn Homebrew Contest? The heat will be on! This year's judges are Cerbero, Crystal Lee, David Jimenez, G to the Next Level, Jason Steele, Johannes Fetz, Saturn Dave, Patrick, and the dude who takes too long to make videos that are too long. First, a note to Seniriu users. Several homebrew games and patches may not work properly on the Seniriu device. This is due to how it operates. Other ODEs only emulate the optical drive, letting Saturn's hardware naturally take care of running the game. The Seniriu emulates much more, including the entire CD-ROM block, an SH1 CPU, and some of the RAM. This allows perks like faster load times, but the complexity adds a wide array of compatibility issues that other ODEs do not have. In a sense, running a game on Seniriu is not the same as running it on real hardware. Homebrew games are designed to run on real hardware. They might work on Seniriu, they might not. If you're a Seniriu user and find a homebrew game you can't boot, I would just recommend burning it to a CDR, then booting that with pseudo Saturn. If you're still shopping for an ODE, I would personally recommend Fenrir or Satiator. Alright, on with this year's submissions. I will briefly review all of them across the 3 categories in the order they were submitted. First, we start with original games. The contest host himself is submitting the very first entry this year, with a tech demo for Seniriu. Dr. Emerald Nova has not released a build of this idea since the 2020 Homebrew Contest. It's been 5 years. That featured a first-person perspective on a flat spaceship with windows looking out at a skybox, some moving 3D objects, and weapon models. The new tech demo is on land. He's scrapping the old engine entirely, building this demo on SRL with help from 7 Shades of CubeCat fame. Instead of showing weapons and moving objects, this is a demo of its terrain rendering. Still a rudimentary tech demo, but the amount of quads this thing can generate is nice. This lets you stroll from a purple spaceship-looking thing down a trail through the forest. It exits into a couple of grain fields, leading you to this little village. It kinda reminded me of Knights of the Old Republic, and apparently that's for good reason. I wrote in depth about the background story of this game idea from Dr. Nova on the Shiro website. I'll link the article below. He says what we're seeing here is the foundation on which the full game will be built. Dr. Nova adds they did have much bigger plans for this year's contest, but development got in the way. I am personally looking forward to seeing how this gets fleshed out. G. Sansigolo is carrying on his visual novel series with Lost Days Zero Queen's Dream. He has submitted other visual novels to previous contests, exploring the lives of mech captains in a post-World War III world. Like his past work, this features original artwork and a complete plot arc in what's now a continuing series. It's a pleasant way to spend a rainy afternoon. I won't say much about the game since that would spoil some of the storyline here, but I can say it's worth checking out. Codemasters fans, this one's for you. Jay Beretta's coming back with a substantial racing game build, Micro Motor Mayhem. This fully 3D RC racing game features a whopping 14 tracks and 8 cars, each with customizable colors. Race atop breakfast tables, workshop benches, gardens, ruins, pool tables, and harder tracks on aforementioned environments. The courses feature some sick jumps, a variety of track features, and item boxes. They give you things like rockets, bombs, and speed boosts. Jay Beretta himself straight up calls this a blend of Mario Kart and Micro Machines, and man oh man, it is a very fun blend. Despite this having more tracks and cars than some commercially released racing games, Beretta says this is version 0.2. The physics are good and the driving's fun, but he concedes there are some issues, like occasional soft locks, proxies shoving your car in weird directions, along with some other tweaks that he'd like to make. The pause menu lets you restart from checkpoints or restart the entire race if you get stuck or something. The CPU difficulty is reasonable and mostly well set up. I only saw them have a hard time at the pool tables. I actually had a ton of fun working my way through all the courses and found myself wanting to come back for more. Micro Motor Mayhem supports couch multiplayer, up to 2 players in vertical split screen. For Saturn heads, this is the same guy who made Cold Case and Zygo. You can see hints of his past work cleverly tucked away in the textures. Also, shout out to the music in this 90s bowling alley carpet. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what future builds of this will look like. It already plays really well. Hoping Beretta is able to find the time and the drive to carry on with this project. This is a vastly improved iteration of Pixel Poppy Pong, coming leaps and bounds from Hash Machine's ultra-simple debut last year. This cat-themed Pong clone is packed with a good-looking UI, up to 4-way multiplayer, and a single-player campaign. It's set up like a one-player mode in a fighting game. You take on other cats who smack-talk you before each match. As far as the gameplay goes, you can think of it like air hockey. You move your cat paw around in 8 directions with the D-pad, and can use the face buttons to smack the cat face into your opponent's goal. Every time you get a goal, a little jingle plays out. There are several different jingles, kind of reminding me of the checkpoints in Virtua Racing. So, it comes to no surprise when I found out Random composed the music for Cat Pong. As always, it sounds very good. In last year's entry, this was a simple gameplay demo with no music, no 4-way multiplayer, no fleshed out gameplay mechanics, no fancy UI or neat intro sequence or single-player campaign. All that stuff is brand new. Items are still being implemented, there's a Craig face and some Garf. I really like the one-liners in between matches. Toe Jam says, "Anyone seen Earl?" Outstanding progress from a guy who basically started Saturn Homebrew just last year. Tales of Saturn is putting out an all-new 3D adventure called Puff Pastry Panic. Power up with marl burrows and coffee in this cute psychedelic journey to find a delicious croissant and save your young from maniac chefs. It appears to include 2 levels so far with pretty hilarious dialogue. I can tell they're having fun creating this game, and it makes me happy to experience this joy. You play as this frog in a 3D polygonal world. I think this girl might be like the frog's wife or something. She looks like one of the blocky podium babes from Virtua Racing. Love it. At one point, after getting enough tobacco and caffeine to jump to the croissant your son asked for, this happens. Tales posted progress videos over the past few months, showing how far they've come since starting the project, implementing more and more assets as this panic over baked goods evolved. It'll be fun to see where this project goes in the near future. Graphics, gameplay, and abstract style are scuzzy in a pretty good way. I'm a fan. Keep it going. Team Starlane brings us this lovely tech demo called MOAI Talks. It's a polygonal MOAI head with a moving mouth. You can make it sing or have it repeat a Morrowind shitpost that I've not heard prior to putting this in my Saturn.
I own a dwarven crossbow for home defense, since that's what the Daedric princes intended.
We rarely ever see mouth movement on 5th gen hardware at all. Usually when a polygonal character speaks, it winds up looking something like this.
When J. Jonah Jameson sees these photos, my career is gonna be right back on track.
But nah, these lips flap. And they do in fact move in relation to what sound is being played. I should also mention the lighting effects here look pretty good. Well done.
Draw my Daedric dart on the second man. Miss him entirely because it's a
Frogbull is known for pulling off impressive demos of unlikely Saturn ports, like the first level in Metal Gear Solid, a frustrating moment from Crash Bandicoot, and a demo of Final Fantasy VII. This is all running on real Saturn hardware. He's building these with the groundwork laid down by XL2 of Hellslave fame. Many of these demos are not publicly available over fears of copyright issues, but people in the homebrew scene have been sent builds to play in private and can verify these are not fake. This is real. This year, he teamed up with VBT to bring us something a little more Sega-centric. Alright, calm down, this is not a complete Shenmue port, but it is pretty cool. Frogbull's submission contains 3 builds. One is a tech demo showing Ryo Hazuki wandering the Yo arcade. You can play QuickTime event minigames and play these Sega arcade games, courtesy of VBT's Final Burn Alpha emulator. They're basically the Sega Master System ports, not, the real deal, but it's still pretty neat. Another build is the forklift race from the later half of the original game, ported to Saturn. The controls are just about as bad as the original, and the graphics being shown on screen are pretty impressive for the console. The third build combines the arcade and forklift race into this top-down sprite-based exploration of Dobuita. Various Sega characters wander the streets as you go on a journey to find Bond's gang and tear it up on the forklifts. This reminds me of those 2006-ass Flash game parodies, and that is a heavy compliment. Great show of what could have been if Saturn Shenmue or Virtua Fighter RPG was in fact released on Saturn as originally planned. A homebrewer by the name of Nova, no relation to Dr. Emerald Nova, seems to have run out of time for their submission. So instead, this submission is a haiku for the Sega Saturn. It reads, quote, "I ran out of time. Inexperience cost me. Instead, enjoy this. On display are Saturn the Mouse and Soup Wizard." Ervilsoft, the homie who brought us Stardust and emulators for Chip 8 and Pico, now brings us this.
They say Nikki's death was an accident, a tragic misstep, a moment of carelessness. But I know my friend, and I know that's a lie.
Pulitzer, a point-and-click horror mystery. As you can hear, it starts out with dialogue laying down the plot. Then you get put into Willard University, looking for clues and collecting tools to solve the disappearance of a dear friend. In true Ervilsoft fashion, this features a very well put together UI and some wonderful artistry. The build is just a short demo, ending right before you explore event. It seems like Ervilsoft does intend to keep this project going, and I really cannot wait to see what the final project looks like. This has me hooked. I want to play more. Very well done so far. This type of experience is uncommon on Saturn, especially for Western fans. Up next is the category for hacks, translations, and patches. These are modifications of commercially released Saturn games, most of them being English translations. Derek Pascarella, known to some as A-Team, translated "We have Parappa the Rappa at home, son," the Saturn exclusive Jung Rhythm. It's developed by Ultron, known for RoboPit and Rocket Power Zero Gravity Zone. It's essentially in the same format as Parappa the Rappa, but instead of playing as a hip-hop dog, you play as Vanilla. She's obsessed with Mr. Chorking, a musician who sings about ecology. Through 6 stages, plus a bonus stage if you're good, I'm not, you sing through activities like making breakfast, dance battling a school bully, and working a part-time job at an American-themed restaurant. The A-Team translation adds subtitles to the cutscenes, keeping the original Japanese audio. In the original, subtitles for the song appear at the top. A-Team, of course, translated all this to English in the patch. It's difficult to read while playing since you're focused on the bottom of the screen to keep rhythm, but that's not really Derek's fault. I would highly recommend checking this out. It's a goddamn weird and wonderful time. Unless your rhythm is worse than Commander Shepard, you should be able to knock this out in under an hour. Pascarella slaps again with the second entry to this category, an English translation of Rabbit. This is a 2D fighter from Aorn, first released to the arcades, then exclusively ported to the Saturn, Japan only. Just a handful of games are credited to Aorn. Taking influence from Chinese mythology, this colorful fighter's unique shtick is the ability to summon your character's beast spirit. They grant certain perks and special moves for each fighter. In single player, you can take the beast spirit from your opponent after beating them. Since this is a fighter, there's not much text to translate, other than menu items and dialogue boxes in between fights. Pascarella says this was his, quote, training ground for getting used to patching games on Saturn, after having spent a lot of time patching FM Towns and Dreamcast games. Training regimen withstanding, this project is a welcome addition to the wealth of Saturn translations. Fun fact. One of the few other games Aorn made was an Ayrton Senna kart racer for the PlayStation. Hell yeah. Shadow Mask brings us this deluxe whopper of a translation patch for Mobile Suit Gundam. It's a story-heavy 2D run-and-gun / spaceship shooter developed by CRI, which was essentially an arm of Sega. With translation help from Solo Nerfherder and other help from Malenko, Shadow Mask translated all the text boxes, subtitled the many cutscenes, and upgraded the cutscene video quality. The Gundam movie was used as a foundation for the FMV translations, while pulling the higher quality scenes from the PS2 release of Kiro Senshi Gundam. A delicious cherry on top is the core gameplay just being so much fun. I consider this to be among the heavy hitter translation patch efforts. Levels flip-flop from being on the ground or in flight. The weapons you have apply to both, which include this laser rifle, a sword, and a homing shot, among others that can be equipped throughout the campaign. Before each level, you can space out helper ships and other power-ups to appear when you reach certain points. If you find yourself wanting more after beating this game, then you're in luck. Shadow Mask is already working on patching the sequel. Very exciting stuff, very good game, and an outstanding translation / upgrade to the original. This is awesome. Malenko, known well for creating translation patches for the Fire Pro wrestling games, translated a lesser celebrated classic from Human. Logic Puzzle Rainbow Town. You ever play P-Cross? Neither have I. I guess this is sort of like P-Cross. The puzzles you solve form pictures, sometimes layering colors on top of each other to form something pretty. Not much had to be translated, but perhaps the most important text, the instructions. You're going to need them. Even after completing this tutorial, smooth-brained pipsqueaks like myself are in for a challenge. Some of these puzzles are tough, and there are more than 700 in this game. If you got a hankering for mind-buster games like this, it is very much worth your time. During last year's contest, Gregory Rasputin submitted a translation patch for Silhouette Mirage, a treasure classic. At the time, it used the Working Designs text from the PS1 localization. In recent years, the translations from Working Designs were put in the spotlight, mainly for their emphasis on changing up the scripts. There's a growing trend to sort of undo Working Designs translations, where folks take the original Japanese text and translate it to be as close to what the original meaning was as possible. With language help from Wired Crackpot, she and Rasputin made a new translation, working from the original Japanese text. It's all done. The new translation plays and reads well, and it's on what is considered to be the better version of the game, perhaps making this the definitive way to play Silhouette Mirage in English. This patch includes a very detailed PDF from Wired Crackpot, detailing her methodology with this new script. For kicks, she threw in translations of the hand-drawn Silhouette Mirage cartoon panels. Very cool. Later on in the document, screenshots from their new translation are compared to the official localization from Working Designs. I would recommend taking a look at them for yourself sometime. The differences are pretty staggering. Credit where it's due to Vic Ireland for bringing so many of these games to the West at a time when they might not have been translated at all. But still, the work seen in this patch is both welcome and necessary. Very well done. Bobales has unlocked a 2-player co-op mode in Burning Rangers. This is a cancelled feature.
The fire is spreading worse than I thought. Sho, be careful.
The original developers started a co-op mode while making the game, but it was cut before release. Turns out, this co-op mode was sort of left behind in the game's code, unused, so Bobales hoisted it from the depths of the disc and made it playable. Bo describes it as a Sonic and Tails situation. Player 2 can put out fires and attack enemies, but they cannot rescue people. Sho and Tillis share a screen, with the camera following Player 1. So to keep it from getting stuck, Player 2 can teleport back to Player 1 by pressing A. Bo had to modify a lot of the code to make this fully functional throughout the entire story mode. Before, it caused crashes, so getting this to work was not as easy as flipping a switch. It's quite impressive, but is it practical? Your mileage may vary. Bo showed off how useful 2-player can be for certain boss fights. When my wife and I tried it, she said it felt like giving a 3-year-old the controller so they can feel like they're playing the game too. It was admittedly cumbersome in a few areas. But part of preserving video game history is allowing others to experience things like this. Major shout out to Bo for getting this to work.
Bomberman!
Malenko's big project for this year's contest is a full translation of Bomberman Fight. This is a neat take on Hudson's typical format for the franchise. From an isometric view, you go one-on-one in an explosive bombing to the death. The bomb kick ability is given to you from the start. Typical power-ups are strewn about the grid, like expanding your blast size and increasing speed. Taking hits decreases your health meter. If you fill the bottom meter, you get this Mondo Mega Bomb, unleashing a torrent of fire covering much of the map. This typically kills whoever it hits in one hit. Each character has their own story mode with unique smack talk in between fights, bringing on a surprising amount of translation work for what is essentially a fighting game. On top of this, the cutscenes now have English subtitles. Malenko had a lot of help with this one, crediting a rather large team in the README. They all did an outstanding job bringing this Saturn banger to the English-speaking world. If you're a Bomberman fan, it's a must-play. Announcing this project for the first time by way of this contest, Night of Dragon brings us Shining Force 3 Online. Simply put, this allows you to connect your Saturn to another using the Netlink adapter and play Shining Force against each other. This impressive effort involved countless hours of reverse engineering the game's code to allow there to be a second player. Of course, a ton of work also went into getting this to work online, built on the foundation of a years-long effort to get Saturn Netlink to work in the modern age. We have all sorts of guides about how to get this done on the Shiro website. You will need a Shining Force 3 save file in your memory to get this to work. The modded game uses this to set your fleet. You get an opportunity to make preparations in the church, then once you step outside, the two-player match begins. Once the battle ends, you go back to the title screen and can start another fight. In online mode, each player controls a fleet from their own save files. Night has also enabled a couch multiplayer build for offline play. Here, the two players have to use the same save file that's on the console. There are 10 custom maps randomly selected before each battle. A lot of people are thanked as part of the team to get this project to where it is now, including Rika PSO, Legalize Freedom, Cineval, Magic Knight Fredrickson, developers of the Kronos and Yabause emulators, along with others in the Shining Force community. Needless to say, this is an impressive feat. Its public release will come in the near future. One of Saturn's greatest failure stories is its port of Doom. This has a troubled and lengthy history. Bottom line, it's poorly optimized. It runs at around 12 frames per second, frequently dipping into the single digits. The Japanese version attempted to speed up the game a little, but it's still pretty bad. When the Saturn ran Quake and Power Slave at high frame rates, there was no good excuse to have Doom run so poorly. Fafling is working on an improvement patch for Saturn Doom. It uses the Japanese version as a base, improving its code to allow for a significantly smoother experience. And my god, this is a night and day difference. Take a look at level 1 to see how this compares to the original Saturn Doom. The improvements are especially noticeable in this first section of the third level. Along the way, Fafling is intricately logging every change being made to the code. In short, this patch eliminates useless tasks and makes dozens of small changes to gradually improve performance and even enhance some of the graphics. There's some transparencies added in that weren't there before. What's even more wild is Fafling says there's more work to be done, calling this version 0.2 of the patch. If this early stage of the project already makes it this playable, I cannot wait to see what's next. In short, playing vanilla Saturn Doom makes me want to stop. Playing Fafling's patch makes me want to keep going, and I did for quite a while. Incredible work. Side note, while this particular version of the patch is not submitted to the contest, Shadowmask modded Fafling's mod to add back the original Doom music, just in case that's anyone's kink. It sure is mine. Before moving on, I just want to say this category is especially difficult to judge this year. All of these entries are incredible standalone projects. Most of them could easily win first place. The judging results will be posted to the SegaXtreme Contest forum thread, which I will link below if you want to see the winners. Next is the Tools Utilities category, which has a record-breaking number of submissions this year. Yaun has created more Saturn save file converters, always useful. The tools he created convert BUPs to save files that work on the Seniriu flashcart, the Saturn Mister Core, and some emulators. This will be particularly useful for the growing group of Seniriu and Mister Core adopters. Solid work. Next is a fat, deluxe, giga-sized, ultra-supreme hyper-fighting of an effort from Raimi, Roberto Duarte, Seven Shades, Will, Nemesis Saturn, and J686. Behold! Saturn Ring Library. It's a new Saturn software development kit, succeeding Joe Engine, Yaul, and Saturn Orbit. Now, I'm not a programmer, but I can tell you what this does. This is supposed to make developing Saturn Homebrew easier. In the words of Raimi, it's a wrapper for Sega Graphics Library written in C++23, giving developers easy-to-use tools to create games. Other homebrewers are praising how easy it is to import 2D and 3D assets, and its compatibility with the latest version of C++. I could rattle on about its various technical features, but those who are interested are better off reading up on it themselves. What I can tell you is Saturn Ring Library is an immense step forward in homebrew development. This should open up wider possibilities and maybe even attract more people to the scene. Next is Shining Force 3 tools from Cineval Zero, forking Ricopso's SF3 toolkit, which was submitted last year. In short, this allows you to make deep changes to Shining Force 3 scenarios, and now allows you to edit maps. Cineval Zero notes the map editing tools are still limited, though it appears they're still working on this hacking tool. I can see hardcore Shining Force fans going nuts over this, and the fact that this is possible at all is really cool to see. Next is Sega Film Tools 3.0.1 from Trekkies Unite 118. The main difference between this and his version from last year's contest is allowing Cinepack video encoding to be entirely done on a modern Windows computer. Before, you needed a much older computer to get this done properly. Not anymore. He's also uploaded Cinepack Movie Disc. This allows anyone to essentially make their own bootable Cinepack discs for their Sega Saturn consoles. The files are all set up to allow you to drag in your custom Cinepack files, title screen, and menu music, creating a poor man's video CD. It allows you to slightly exceed the disc size limit to make longer movie discs playable on ODEs. Raimi submitted a model converter for their previous homebrew game, Utenya, a cat-girl tank game. On the GitHub page, Ray says it supports UV mapping and smooth shading, along with allowing multiple objects to be inside a single file, making vertex animations possible. Last is the 3D terrain tooling for Seniriu, done by Dr. Emerald Nova and Seven Shades. Simply put, and in the words of the good doctor, this is a pipeline for importing collidable level geometry from modern 3D tools into an SRL-based game for the Sega Saturn. The download includes instructions and some sample textures to get you started. Alright, that's all the entries for this year. The SegaXtreme forum thread for the contest will have my rankings along with the sum of all judges, declaring the winners. Here's a look at other ongoing and finished projects that were not submitted to the Homebrew Contest. Shout out to Dan the Manthrax and Gregory Rasputin for helping me with this list. The Sakura Wars 2 English patch is here. The big team behind this one spent years translating, coding, and refining this patch for a heavy-hitter Japan exclusive. They finished a translation patch for the first game all the way back in 2019. Now, more than 5 years later, English-speaking fans can enjoy the sequel. They wanted to submit it to this year's contest, but they just ran out of time, so I guess they could submit an early entry for next year. Kitchen 34 recently finished an English patch for Dark Seed, which is an H.R. Geiger-inspired point-and-click adventure. The game was originally created in English, but for some reason, its console ports never made it out of Japan? Anyway, this one's worth checking out. Princess Crown is a Sega Saturn action RPG developed and published by Atlus in 1997. It was only released in Japan. In March of 2012, Samayam and Cyber Warrior X began working on an English translation patch. In its early phases, the duo put out a rough work-in-progress source code on GitHub with a public license, asking for help. They later removed the GitHub code, resuming their project in private. In 2024, a patcher by the name of Eadmaster found and used that same source code to create his own patch. Sam and Cyber's GitHub license was public at the time, so forking is allowed. Building from their work, Eadmaster carried on with the open source patch alongside many other collaborators, helping bring this version of the patch to the finish line. They say it's now done, releasing version 1.0 in April. Paul Met helped with an EX version featuring transparent dialogue boxes and other visual effects. Tiny fixes may come in the future, but it's fully playable. Sam and Cyber are still working on their original patch in private, featuring a revised translation and variable width font. Hot Rod X is in the midst of a very promising Saturn port of Konami's X-Men Arcade. Paul Met completed an English translation patch of Arcana Strikes, a card-based Saturn-only RPG, rich with creamy 2D graphics. Hitomi 2500 posted a work-in-progress English patch for Air's Adventure, with translation help from Snowy Aria. While I was editing this video, Laurenica finished an English patch for D&D Tower of Doom. It's out now. A team finished this underdog project, translating and dubbing the shmup Blastwind to English.
The Super Warriors, known only as Form.
A talented group of people led by Salvi Garrido redubbed Saturn's Resident Evil to Spanish. Este muy sick.
Albert Wesker.
Por los pelos. Un poco más y tenemos un sándwich de Gil.
Kitchen 34 has created numerous French translation patches. Check them out on Kitchen's SegaXtreme resource pages. VBT is continuing to post new builds of the flashback port, gradually making more improvements to its performance. The English patch of Tokimeki Memorial is still being worked on by Hitomi 2500 and another translator. They're currently looking for someone outside the team to help with crashes and some of the other technical issues in their patch. If you're a hacker or patcher interested in helping out, please reach out to them.
Don't go to the arcade. Arcade sucks anyways. Only nerds go to arcades. That includes me.
Magic Knight Fredrickson is putting in the work for an English patch of Riglord Saga 2. Shadow Mask and Wired Crackpot are taking no breaks and no survivors as they barrel on into a Zeta Gundam translation patch, right after the Gundam patch submitted to this year's contest, as I mentioned earlier. Gregory Rasputin and Wired Crackpot are doing an English patch of Sword and Sorcery, fixing the Working Designs translation used on the 3DO version. Ross showed off a screenshot of a Savaki mod in the contest forum thread. Seven Shades is still hard at work on CubeCat, said to have some big plans for this highly impressive original 3D platformer. While I was editing this video, Maoud, aka Gundam Yaoi, posted an English patch for Puyo Puyo Dungeon. Right before I finished editing this video, Nai-san gave us a look at this all-new Dragon Ball beat-em-up they're making for the Saturn. Look, sprite scaling. While Fredo Abehon posted a major progress video update to his Noah and the Palooties 3D platformer engine, bumping Bob-omb Battlefield and Hyrule on a Saturn with just one of the SH2 processors. And Blood Factory posted video of their homebrew game called Kosotoko Gaizu, AJ and Big Justice.
We're Costco guys. Of course we go shopping while eating a chicken bake.
We're Costco guys. Of course we have to try the new double chunk chocolate cookie.
We're Costco guys.
I would like to give one more big shout out to all of this year's contestants. There was so much high quality work, once again making the task of judging very difficult. To top this off, there are an incredible amount of other exciting projects underway right now, topped off with new possibilities cracked open by emerging tools and other developments. A huge shout out to the community of people playing these games, to the hardcore longtime fans sticking with the rings, the newcomers who just bought their first Saturn, the emulator enjoyers, the ODE adopters, the viewers, researchers, essayists, tinkerers, proto-build archaeologists, hackers, cheat code hunters, chipheads, modders, and any who abide by the teachings of our Lord Segata-san Shiro. You're all making this scene thrive in remarkable ways. It still amazes me to see Saturn get this much homebrew support, perhaps more than any other retro console, at least more than what I'm aware of. Regardless, we are eating well, so stay hungry, and remember, you must play Sega Saturn. Thank you for watching.
If you enjoyed this evening, we sure did here, all of us watching together here in the KTEH studios.